BlizzCon exclusive, no donuts.
Thank you.
Hello, great game, but I have a question about how the game is going to transition. Like, you've upped the pace from Diablo 2 significantly, and I'm curious how it's going to transition into boss fights for Diablo 3.
I'm sorry, I know I keep looking down, I just want to make sure I'm not taking all the questions. Boss fights we always consider an extension of the core gameplay. So one of the things we focused on is with every boss fight we want a reflection of how the game plays regularly. So our boss focus is, we've always said we want to make them about 50% Diablo 2 and about 50% Zelda. I always really like Zelda as an example because Zelda has very simple, straightforward boss fights that play into their core game mechanics, but they make them really interesting by having good phases or good themes, by setting up their bosses really well. So that's what we're trying to do with all the boss fights that you'll experience in Diablo 3.
Thank you.
Hey, I love this game. I played it since I was 5, but I quit, and then after a few years I returned, and I was horribly disappointed when the boss came. And I was wondering if there was any way to stop the program such as T2NT and just cancel them out, like in Battlegrounds with World of Warcraft, and you could just report them AFK, they gotta press the button, and then they'll be saved.
Well, let's see. We want to make your online experience as good as possible because we hate bots just as much as you do. So we will do whatever we can to try to stop them.
You also have to remember that technology has changed quite a bit from Diablo 2. So we have a lot more tools at our disposal to try to counteract bots.
So, yeah, I mean, it is a tough challenge, though. I mean, every time we try to stop things, people put a lot of effort into try to making them back again. But I'll say that we will do whatever we can.
Yeah, and a lot of the structure of the new BattleNet does actually make it difficult to have something that can just kind of jump in easily to a game and bot and move out. So that's one of the things that we're trying to look at as we continue to develop BattleNet.
Thank you.
So I was wondering if we're going to get a key ring to carry all our ears on. And if we can expect some right ears instead of just the left.
Well, that's an art question. I have no idea whether Christian has the capability of making ears for both sides. It's insane.
I think we just decided on that, didn't we? Just now? We're going to have to include that, I think.
Yeah, we haven't figured out where the ears are going to go, to be honest with you. Like, but I consider that we won't ship the game until we do kind of a feature. We must have ears. So, yeah, well, I'm sure we will give you, we're certainly not going to make you store the ears in your inventory. So I promise you that.
Thank you.
Hey guys, my question for you is in regards to the multiplayer games. Will the player amount per game remain the same, or do you plan on changing in Diablo 3?
Well, it could change. Right now, when we've been playing through the game, everything seems to play really well with the 4-player cap, but that is something that we've investigated over time.
Thank you.
All right, so as I understand, hardcore mode is making a comeback. I'm wondering how is that going to work with the new PvP system? And since we don't have stats or abilities, are the traits going to be coming in to account for the balancing for hardcore builds?
So, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the trait question.
Well, usually, right, with a hardcore build, you just pump everything in Vitality and then normal build, right? So what's going to be done instead of that?
Well, we don't know yet what's going to be done for hardcore characters in relation, but putting the trait system in is basically to recognize that with the previous kind of attribute point spending systems, there wasn't a lot of customization to them. There was just a pattern of what you always did. So yes, it is our goal to break that. That being said, you actually have a lot of different defensive abilities that you can get through traits, and you can still do a lot of itemization. So I'm sure hardcore characters are going to stack health. On the PvP hardcore question, first I'd like to say thank you for asking that, because I was really hoping someone would. Yeah, you're going to die, because it's hardcore mode. So if you don't want to die, don't go into the arena.
Thank you.
Hey there, guys. I had a question regarding runes. Are runes going to be making an appearance in Diablo 3? And if so, is it going to take like 1 million to make an ist rune? Could you just tell me that now so I can start saving?
Runes are in Diablo 3. They're the things we put into the skills to change how they work. So the runes as they existed in Diablo 2, we don't have any plans to put them into Diablo 3 because rune words are really a crafting system, and we added a new crafting system. So we don't really want to compete with our crafting system with another crafting system, because one's going to become redundant or better. So we'd rather just stick to the one.
Thank you.
Hey, sorry, wow, I go. My question is about the appearances of the game, because in Diablo 2, you had some of the coolest armor in any game that I have ever seen. And what I'm hoping for is that if you guys ever talked about having maybe an appearance tab or something like that, like you could see what you're wearing on the outside, but have actual gear, because it might, have better stats or something like that, but there's cooler gear that you would rather wear because it's badass as opposed to the gear that you would go kill people in.
Nate, you want to tackle that one?
No, I think you got this.
So we're really giving you a lot more choices in Diablo 3 than in Diablo 2 as far as armor sets go. We're spending a lot of time on giving you a lot of variety. We're also adding a dye system to it. So the dye system will allow you to actually dye certain parts of the armor, make it even cooler, and totally customize it the way you like to.
The short answer is it's going to look even cooler.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is to maybe mention is that the dye system will also have probably rare dyes, meaning that you'll be able to find or even craft very rare dyes and basically show them off to your friends and go like, look at my cool armor because it's crimson red and nobody else has that. So it'll be really cool.
Thank you.
One more step. There you go. What's up, guys? This is Carl Friend representing Ravenholt. So I'm going to try to make this like a programming question for the boys up there. So I'm like primarily a WoW player, right? But I'm really excited about checking out the Diablo universe. One of the things I find awkward with trying the game is the mouse-based movement, because, if I'm a caster and I'm just a little bit off with my mousing, instead of casting a fireball, I'm now going to go see how sharp his axe is with my face. So have you guys given any thought to incorporating a WASD movement as like a secondary choice for characters? And I guess what would the programming challenges be in something like that?
Hey now, it's a legitimate question.
This is a friendly
Relax. It's not like he said dual crossbows suck or anything. Okay, so we've played around with WASD, and it doesn't feel very good because it's only 4 directions, and there's a lot more granularity to how you move the character with the mouse. So we felt like it was a vastly inferior control scheme for how the game played, and we didn't want to support something that we felt was not a good control scheme. At Blizzard, controls are everything. We put an enormous amount of time and energy into them, and so supporting multiple, especially when one of them is obviously not the way most people are going to play and is not really the way we want people to play, is not something we try to do.
To address the actual example you gave, we do have a key in the game that you can hold that will keep you in place so that if you are off target, you don't go and find out how sharp that axe is.
Shift.
That's the shift key.
Thank you.
I was wondering if there was any plans to allow downloading of the original Diablo and Hellfire, along with the way Diablo 2 can apparently be purchased online.
Sorry, I heard original Diablo and Hellfire.
Currently, you can purchase Diablo and Diablo 2 and the expansion online and download it directly, while there's no way to do the same for the original.
Okay, so probably, we don't know yet, but almost every game that we're making now, we're trying to move to be able to purchase online. And I believe Mike said at the opening ceremony that Cataclysm is actually going to be able to be purchased directly from us online. So we haven't figured out that stuff yet for Diablo 3, but I can't see why we wouldn't do it that way.
Thank you.
Alex Costello, out to Portland, Oregon. My question is, with StarCraft 2 and World of Warcraft with professional gaming communities, they're big. Do you have any plans on bringing that to Diablo 3 with the arena?
No. If anything, we're actually specifically trying to avoid that. Now, if players want to turn the arenas into a competitive mode, you know, it's your game. You have the power to do whatever you want with it. But we're not incentivizing it. We're not encouraging it. We're actually specifically saying it's not an esport because, you know, the great thing about dueling in Diablo 2 was that everybody who got it was a part of it. They didn't mind that it wasn't a perfectly balanced game. They actually liked that because it was all about finding the better build or the better way, finding that way to make a character work in a way that no one else had found before. That does not lend itself to hardcore balance. If it becomes an esport, the balance, the fairness starts dictating everything. And that's not what we want. We want to preserve that idea of you can make a better character. And you can find this obscure build and just beat people up with it. As soon as you put in those like esports and the rankings, that all goes away.
Thank you.
Hi, I'd just like to say that my favorite level in Diablo 2 was the Arcane Sanctuary, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever how you guys did the drawing with the isometric so that you could walk up a tower that was forever like building onto itself. Now that Diablo 3 is going to be built around this 3D engine, I was wondering if you guys had any plans to bring that level back, or if there was any way really of doing that, because it seems kind of like it's impossible.
That would be pretty hard, wouldn't it? The Escher stuff?
Pat, you have some thoughts on that?
Well, we're always trying to add depth and layers to our environments just to make them more visually interesting and sometimes, you know, more gameplay interesting. An infinite staircase, I don't know.
From a 3D point of view, obviously that's really hard to do. I think there are some thoughts on having some levels that will be a little bit in that direction, but it's not quite the same thing as in D2 where, you know, you can get away with that.
Thank you.
Hi guys, the game is great so far. The improvements from last year's BlizzCon, even with sound and UI, is great. I wish I had a sound question. Unfortunately, I don't. I was wondering if you could give us an idea on maybe how long Diablo 3 is in comparison to Diablo 2. Like, is it? I know length is kind of arbitrary because some people will power through the game and some people will take longer times. But let's say if you took Diablo and Lord of Destruction, is Diablo 3 quote unquote longer or shorter, about the same in length? Can you give us any kind of ideas on what you're shooting for?
Kevin, would you like to get that one? Kevin, why so handsome?
Who me?
Yeah. Yeah, you.
Honestly, you kind of...
Content designer?
To some extent, I have to give you a non-answer to that. You kind of already answered it, is that it's dramatically different depending on who's playing, and to a large part because of the randomness.